Welcome to the May 19th meeting of the MCCSC Board of School Trustees. We ask that you please come to order. Let's begin with our Excellence Spotlight. This is a time set aside to celebrate members of our school community. Ms. Harmon.
Thank you, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, the Board of Trustees, and community members. It's my pleasure to share this month's Excellence Spotlight. It's a feature of every regular Board of School Trustees meeting, and it's a dedicated time to honor the excellence occurring every day through the dedication of MCCSC employees, students, and volunteers who make a difference in our school community and foster environments that reflect the MCCSC mission, vision, and core values. For our May Excellence Spotlight, this May, we're excited to highlight James Connor Bain, a Hoosier Hills Career Center student whose dedication to the HSA-2 capstone course stands out in every way. As the final hands-on experience in the Health Services Administration pathway, the HSA-2 capstone allows students to put their learning into action in real-world settings, and Connor has embraced that opportunity wholeheartedly. Not only does he excel in his classroom, but he also brings that same commitment to his internship. While only 16 hours were required to earn his Indiana HHA registry, Connor chose to go far beyond expectations, completing more than double the required hours. His maturity and work ethic left such a strong impression that the facility where he attended offered him a position. Connor represented the very best of Hoosier Hills Career Center, and we're proud to celebrate his accomplishments this month. Congratulations. And Connor's here. Do you want to bring him up for a photo?
Ms. Harmon, what's the name of the person you're recognizing?
Connor Bain.
Okay. Oh. Okay. James Connor.
James
Oh.
Connor Bain. Yeah.
James Bain. Do you go by Connor?
Yeah, I go by Connor.
Okay. Forgive me. I wanted to make sure you were recognizing the name.
And they're done at the end of the school year. You never know.
You already got that job. How awesome is that?
Start June 1st.
Excellent.
Right.
Congrats. We have urgent care tech at AU Health Hospital. Thank you.
We have one other recognition this evening who is not in attendance, but I would like to speak to it. We are also proud to recognize Mrs. Elizabeth Sturgis as our Excellence Spotlight for Clear Creek Elementary School. Mrs. Sturgis creates a visually exciting, welcoming classroom that gives students an early glimpse into the extraordinary kindergarten experiences they will explore throughout the year. Under her guidance, Clear Creek's kindergartners build a strong foundation in reading, inquiry, and math, and then bring those skills to life through hands-on, meaningful learning. Her students grow plants from seeds, observe the life cycle of butterflies before releasing them in the spring, and incubate and care for chicks that later join staff or family co-ops. They also host visitors from a supported living center, strengthening their sense of community and empathy. Thank you, Mrs. Sturgis. I feel like we should still clap.
On behalf of the board, thank you, Ms. Harmon, and congratulations to both of our honorees. We appreciate that you are in attendance, but we also understand if you don't want to stick around for the rest of the meeting. No pressure either way. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. We will now receive our quarterly update on the activities of the MCCSC Foundation from Mrs. Helm, the Foundation Director.
Good evening, President Cooperman and Dr. Winston and other school board members, trustees. So it's the end of the year. Y'all know that, right? Yeah. So what, 2 days left? 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, 3 days? Well,
Just two.
just two. So we've been busy, and we, as with everybody else, are winding down as well. So last night was our last night of presenting scholarships. So we were at Bloomington High School North last night, presenting our scholarships and award. But in total, between the high schools, middle schools, and there's a couple of awards that go into the elementary schools. This year we awarded out $25,600, and that is across about 45 students. So we are very thankful to those who applied, those who were selected, and wish them all the best as they go forward. To everybody, all of our teachers who have written grants throughout the course of the year, we thank them for that, for being a part of our programming, and for hitting in there with us. Now, a big way that I do that is also by thanking everybody who came to our duck race. It was a fantastic day. If you were there or not able to be there, a big thank you. If you bought ducks, participated in the reading challenge, were one of our performers, you were a volunteer, you came to the event, you sponsored the event, whatever your participation was in that, we greatly appreciate it, and we would like to let you know that that money will be going back into grant programming. So teachers next year will be seeing that fruits of that labor as it comes through their door. Miss Sturgis, that you mentioned just a minute ago, she actually was a grant recipient for ours. So if you're out at Clear Creek and you see some lovely bird feeders for their birding exhibit with the her kindergarten class, you know where that came from. So it was kind of nice to do that. So she's doing more than what Ms. Harmon just gave her praise for over there. So our sponsors on the duck race were Cook Medical, Harris Services, Community Cars, Old National Bank, and Centra. So we thank them for that. Coming up, June 4th, our annual Golf for Kids. I think this is year 11 or 12. COVID messes me up on which year it is. But anyway, it's 11 or 12. We have a little twist this year. We will be at Eagle Point this year, so we're looking forward to being on that property. We do have room for a few more teams, so if anybody wants to join in, please get with me. Eagle Point's a little larger property, so we can take more teams than what we normally have been able to take in the past. So if you know anybody that still wants to put a team in, have them give me a call ASAP, because I need to know before food gets ordered. Thank you to our sponsors on that is Cook Medical, CFC, CSO Architects, Garmon Construction, Weddle Brothers Construction, Blades Audio Video, R.E. Dimmond, Fanning Howie, Service Master, Indiana Members Credit Union, JA Benefits, German American, Electric Plus, and Toshiba. So all of those people are in and have teams, so it should be a good time, and hopefully more people will come out and join us. Thank you all for allowing us to do what we do. It is a pleasure to be a part of MCCSC and to check off one more school year. So until next fall, we'll be back.
On behalf of the board, thank you, Mrs. Helm, and thank you to the foundation. I do really enjoy the duck. Do they call it the duck race? I don't know if you've been. They don't really race so much as they float, but it's cute either way. I love that event. We will now proceed to public comment. Thank you to all who signed up and acknowledged the guidelines to speak to the board tonight. As a reminder, Mrs. Butcher will ring the bell once to signal that you have 30 seconds remaining for your comment, and 5 bells to signal that your time has concluded. Our first speaker tonight is Lyle Henry.
Good evening. My name is Lyle Henry, and I'm a junior at VHSN. I am here to speak out in support of my teacher, Mrs. Wong.
Lyle, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We can't use specific names of any personnel. We have one of the guidelines is that we don't talk about specific people
I am here to speak out in support of my teacher.
I hear that, and I appreciate that.
I just want to know answers. I'm not getting any clear answers.
So Lyle, I did email you today, and I encourage you to just speak generally. If you'd like to talk generally about what you appreciate about teachers in general, for example, you're welcome to do that. But I can't let you talk about specific personnel.
Okay, I want to know why only one person is being ripped, and it's her. That's all. I really want you guys to think about that. It's an injustice.
Thank you. That does conclude public comment. Thank you, Mr. Henry, for your comments tonight. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Now for our consideration is the consent agenda that includes minutes from the board meeting held on April 28th, 2026, memorandum from executive session on May 5th, 2026, Annual request for overnight out-of-state field trips. Financial report, April 2026. Appropriation balance report, April 2026. Register of claims, May 19th, 2026. Payroll register and payroll claims, April 2026. Student orientation and support guide changes. Student athletic handbook changes. Request to declare as surplus and authorize disposal of out-of-date items. Do I have a motion regarding the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ashley and seconded by Tiana that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next for our consideration are the donations. We have received donations of over $3,000. Thank you to all our donors. Your generosity is appreciated. Do I have a motion to accept the donations?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Aaron and seconded by Asia that we accept the donations as presented. All those in favor of approving the donations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we will revisit old business. The first is the anti-harassment policy. So we are considering the anti-harassment policy for professional staff, support staff, and students. Is there a motion to adopt the anti-harassment policy for professional staff, support staff, and students as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ashley and seconded by Aaron that we adopt the anti-harassment policy for professional staff, support staff, and students as presented. Dr. Henderson?
Thank you, President Cooperman, members of the board, Dr. Winston. It is recommended that the board adopt the following policies: 3362 professional staff, 4362 support staff, and 5517 students anti-harassment. Changes to these policies were presented for first reading at the April 28th, 2026 meeting of the board and are presented to the board for a second and final reading. Any prior policies relating to the aforementioned policies are rescinded, deemed null and void, and replaced by the revised policies 3362 professional staff, 4362 support staff, and 5517 students anti-harassment, which are presented tonight for adoption on this 19th day of May, 2026. I so recommend.
Are there any comments from the board? Thank you, Dr. Henderson. All those in favor of adopting the anti-harassment policy for professional staff, support staff, and students signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to new business, beginning with the personnel report. So next for our consideration is the personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel report as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ashley and seconded by Tiana that we approve the personnel report as presented. Dr. Henderson?
Thank you, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, and members of the Board of School Trustees. This evening, I would like to call your attention to the following retirements: Larry Winters, Administrator, Assistant Athletic Director, and Physical Education Teacher at Bloomington High School South. Mr. Winters has been with MCCSC for the last 32 years, serving as Assistant Athletic Director and Physical Education Teacher at Bloomington High School South. Additionally, certified staff retirements: Kevin Gallagher, Teacher, Elementary School at Templeton. Mr. Gallagher has been with MCCSC for the last 31 years, most recently serving as a grade 3-4 teacher at Templeton Elementary School. Altogether, the retirees presented in this evening's packet represent a combined total of 63 years of service to our school community, and on behalf of MCCSC, I would like to extend a special thank you to these individuals for their many years of dedicated service and wish them well in their next adventures. At this time, I request that you please approve the recommendations presented in your board packet in the personnel report.
there any comments from the board? Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Did I hear?
Was Mr. Winters, was he also the track coach?
He has served as a coach in a variety of capacities at Bloomington High School South. I believe he's been involved in girls basketball as the head coach, and I believe he's assisted with track as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure
So
if he was
the
the head
track
coach.
coach. He, wonderful guy. That's all I wanted to say.
A different winners.
Okay, so I'm on the
Yeah.
wrong. Thank you. I knew it was the wrong one. I was actually about to be really sad. But he's still a wonderful guy. But I wanted to know. Thank you. He's still a wonderful guy. Thank you. Let's just make that clear. So thank you, Dr. Winston. Two different people.
Any other comments from the board? All right, thank you, Dr. Henderson. All those in favor of approving the personnel report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We will move on to the contracts. Do I have a motion to approve the contracts as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Tiana and seconded by Ashley that we approve the contracts as presented. Mr. Irwin?
Thanks, President Cooperman. All contracts have been reviewed through our normal process. I am recommending all contracts as presented. Mrs. Harmon's going to review the early learning partner provider agreements as we did in the March board meeting as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Mrs. Harmon, there are 2 early learning contracts. Can you please comment on that? Oh, Ms. Harmon. Where am I? Mrs. Harmon. Could you comment on the early learning contracts?
Thank you, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, members of the board. I'd like to present the administration's recommendation for renewal of our current early learning partner contracts for the 26-27 school year. These contracts are part of the family-friendly 2023 referendum, which supports the expansion of early learning opportunities for families across Monroe County. From the outset, this expansion was designed to strengthen and partner with existing community early learning providers rather than compete with them, ensuring families have access to a broad and diverse range of high-quality options. All partnership agreements are structured to comply with Indiana Code 20-20-28-5, which requires that partner programs operate as nonprofit organizations and deliver a federally approved preschool program. In addition, partners must maintain a Level 3 or Level 4 rating in the Path to Quality program for the state of Indiana, and the program must support student development and prepare students for kindergarten learning as directed by MCCSC. I'm recommending 2 current contracts for renewal, all to be supported by the referendum.
Okay, I have to wing this one a little bit, so bear with me. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the contract for New Hope Early Learning Center signify by saying aye.
Well, I can go.
Oh.
Do you want me to give you the information for each of them?
Yeah,
I think I might have a slightly.
I actually, and if we can just, I'm going to just Robert's rules this a little
Okay.
bit. So I think we actually need a motion on, can I have a motion to approve the contract with the New Hope Early Learning Center?
You already have a motion.
But all of them together. You don't think I need to do
I
which one?
understand, but that's what you have before.
Okay.
It's a motion to approve them all.
I'm going to defer to Tom then, and we won't do individual motions and then comments. Okay. All right, Ms. Harmon, do you want to present the New Hope Early Learning Center?
Okay, thank you, President Cooperman.
Yeah.
The first contract for recommendation is the agreement with the New Hope Early Learning Center to provide early childhood education services to 3-year-old and 4-year-old students in the 26-27 school year, and with terms as outlined by the MCCSC Resolution 2026-05. The total cost of this agreement is not to exceed $60,000 per 12-month contract year and will be paid from the Referendum Fund 2023. I so recommend.
Are there any comments on the contract with the New Hope Early Learning Center? All right, all those in favor of approving the contract with New Hope Early Learning Center signify
Your
by.
motion you've got is to approve all the contracts.
I know, but they want me to vote on them individually.
Well, then you need to change the motion you've got a motion before you right now to approve them all. You can withdraw that motion and start over.
Tom, can we talk about 2 individually and then I'll take the vote at the end?
If you want, yeah, you can talk about the 2 individually, then vote on the motion you've got, yes.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
It's fine with me, but in keeping with how we did it last time, we did not make a motion to approve all the contracts in one fell swoop. We had them out individually in this instance. I'm fine going with it how we have it now, but going forward, I would like them individually just because of what we ran into last month.
Okay, agreed. We're gonna keep the motion open to approve all the contracts. We'll discuss these two early learning centers individually, but I do think we should revisit the process for this going forward.
It's fine, I'm just
Okay.
what you've got in front.
Yeah.
I'm Tom. I don't want you to tackle me. Okay. So, are there any comments on the New Hope Early Learning Center contract? No. Ms. Harmon, would you please present the next contract for
Sure.
early childhood development?
For sure. Thank you. The next recommendation is the agreement with the trustees of Indiana University on behalf of Indiana University Bloomington Early Childhood Education Services to provide early childhood education services to 3-year-old and 4-year-old students in the 2026-2027 school year, and with terms as outlined by the MCCSC Resolution 2026-05. The total cost of this agreement not to exceed $260,000 and will be paid from the referendum fund 2023. I so recommend.
Are there any board comments on the contract with the trustees of Indiana University?
No.
Then just to be clear, I'm going to call a motion for a vote on all of the contracts. Okay. So all those in favor of approving the contracts as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against, say no. Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay. All right, now we're going to move on to child nutrition procurement. Do I have a motion to approve the child nutrition federal procurement procedures as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, who moved it? Ashley?
Ashley
Okay.
moved it.
It's been moved by Ashley and seconded by Asia that we approve the child nutrition federal procurement procedures as presented. Mr. Irwin?
Thank you. The procurement plan is in alignment with Board Policy 6320, and it's actually a template of the state that we filled out to make sure that it brings into alignment our federal, state, and local policies and guidelines. So it is a template of that. We worked on this in conjunction with our child nutrition director to make sure everything looked as it should.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Any comments from the board? All those in favor of approving child nutrition federal procurement procedures signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next is the first reading of two policies. First is policy 7510, use of facilities and the fee schedule. Dr. Henderson?
Thank you, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, members of the board. Policy 5710, use of school facilities, presented for first reading this evening. This policy has been updated to replace the current policy. The revised policy will create uniformity across the corporation on the use of our facilities by outside organizations. Policy 5710, use of school facilities, is presented tonight for first reading. It will be presented a second time along with the proposed fee schedule for a recommendation to adopt at the June 23rd, 2026 board meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Are there any comments from the board? I have two questions, and Dr. Henderson, this might be more of a question for our legal counsel, but I noticed the policy doesn't, as far as I can tell, have any language in it that would give us the option of declining the use of our facilities to organizations that might have values that are different from MCCSC. Is it possible for us to limit use of our facilities or give ourselves the option of declining a contract to use our facilities? Do you see see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. The answer is it possible? Yes. But you'd have to come up with an applicable standard that is what you would have to come up with, some basis, some rational basis that doesn't violate the law and isn't discriminating people based upon things. So if you want to, that can be explored, but I would say that it would take some work to make that happen. And it puts people in a difficult position trying to make judgment calls, and judgment calls are what get you in trouble.
Right, okay.
The policy does indicate that folks have to agree to rules regarding things like equipment use, alcohol, tobacco, illegal substances, gambling, prize fights, those types of things. So there is language in there for the kinds of activities that we would certainly prohibit in our schools.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think that's just something I need to mull over a bit more.
Understood.
I have one more question, but I want to give others the opportunity to ask questions if you have any. So my other question was about the fee schedule. I think that it looks like we are going to charge more for community nonprofits to use our space than government organizations, and I just wondered why that distinction.
So the fee schedule was modeled after about 8 or 10 other school districts in the state, and our previous fee schedule, which was consistent in identifying those tiers and having different levels of fees associated with those different levels of tiers. In the previous model, our fee structure was tier 1, A, B, and C, which in this tier structure is equivalent to tiers 1, 2, and 3. So it's trying to simplify the definitions, simplify the tiers so that there's a clear delineation there. So it is very similar to what we previously had, and it's also modeled after several other school corporations.
But is there a reason why? I don't think that really got answered. Why the government part, even if that's what we had previously, why the government parts have to pay less than the community organization parts? I guess I didn't hear the clarity in that part of the question.
Yeah, it was just in keeping with the previous fee structure that existed. We have had a long-standing relationship with our government agencies to be able to provide opportunities into our schools, whereas our community nonprofits were not connected to government. So things like the League of Women Voters, for example, might utilize the facility to host an event for local voters. And so historically, those groups had been charged less than other nonprofit organizations.
Okay.
I guess I'm not understanding the difference in the schedule kind of defines it differently. Tier 2 is just youth because on the first document it's youth and local nonprofit service groups. So what I'm trying to understand is the difference in local nonprofit service groups or community and civic nonprofit groups, which is 2 tier difference.
Tier 2 is typically those groups that serve local youth, made up of 51% or more of participants who are residents of our catchment zone for our school corporation. Other local nonprofits may not be serving youth that feed into our district. So the youth and local nonprofits might be Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, those types of organizations, where other nonprofits may not necessarily be serving the students that are a part of our district.
Okay, that actually makes me, I'm glad that you pointed that out, Asia, because I was thinking about like the difference between city-run organization and a youth nonprofit, I wouldn't want that youth nonprofit to be charged more, but Asia just reminded me that they're on the no fee list anyway. That's helpful. Thank you. Other questions about the facility use or fee schedule? All right. This is a first reading, so we won't vote on this one. Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Next, Ms. Harmon, will you present for first reading policy 5316, wireless communication devices?
Yes. Thank you, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, and members of the board. I present policy 5316, wireless communication devices, for first reading. This policy has been revised to reflect changes initiated by Senate Enrolled Act 78, which requires schools to implement policies prohibiting student use of personal wireless communication devices for the entire school day. Policy 5316, wireless communication devices, is presented for the first reading and will be presented a second time for recommendation to adopt at the June 23rd, 2026 board meeting. Thank you.
Questions or comments from the board? I have a question.
Sure.
So the first line of the policy says a student may bring but is prohibited from possessing ... a device. Can you explain how they could bring but not possess a device?
So they will have to store them in an inaccessible location for the instructional school day instead. So they'll bring it has to be stored in their locker or element in a cubby, or it would be building specific based on what's available and what makes the most sense. And so in that way they can bring them onto school grounds, but they cannot use it from really what's referred to as bell to bell, when instruction starts to when instruction ends.
I guess my concern is with the word possess. Would it be possible for us to use a different word that makes it more clear that they can't have it out? Do I understand correctly that under this policy, a student, for example, might be able to have a device in their backpack as long as it's not out during the school day?
If that is the identified location by the administration. And also, though, there are like exceptions within the policy as well when a student may be able to have it. But yes, that you do. If it was in their backpack, if that was the approved location, that would be fine.
Do you think that saying they can't possess it indicates that they could have it in a backpack?
I think we can look at the language for sure, and if that's a word, where some of the language we took was guidance given to us from organizations that are looking at crafting these, and so we can look at that as well. So we can do that. I do think there will also be accompanying guidelines that are in student handbooks and orientation guides at schools that will really kind of make more clear exactly what that behavior looks like.
Okay. Just for what it's worth, maybe it's just me, but I found that line kind of confusing, and I even looked up the dictionary definition of possess just to make sure I wasn't totally off base. So I think, in my opinion, that's worth relooking at for clarity.
Sure. Thank you.
Is there anything that could, you talked about judgment earlier, and so I'm thinking when I see that word.
We'll talk about the wording.
Sounds good.
Understand your question. Understand your.
You just don't want us to get in a pickle.
And we don't want to put you in a pickle. So we'll.
Thank you.
Understand the question.
Thank you. I've got more, but I want to give others space. Asia.
So that location will vary from school to school.
It will. So some schools don't have lockers, so we wouldn't want the policy to say it has to be stored in a locker, right? So, but it will have to be identified in the student handbook and orientation guide, like where it is for the specific school. It cannot vary from student to student or classroom to classroom. It will be an administrator identified location. I think later in the policy, it says administrator identified an approved building location, powered off and inaccessible to students. So during the school day, the wireless communication devices must be stored away in the administration identified an approved building location, powered off and inaccessible to students. They can use it. They also would be able to have it before the bell and after the bell, like in extracurricular activities, things like that.
President Cooperman, may I?
Of course.
I think one of the additional challenges that this type of directive from the legislature presents for school personnel is the fact that families want their students to be able to contact them. And when you have a bell-to-bell policy, so the question for us is, what does that look like bell-to-bell? A lot of the work that was conducted by Mrs. Harmon was to gather feedback from our educators, from our students, from our families, as to whether they wanted to prohibit students from even bringing a cell phone to school at all, or do we want to have a storage policy? And the unanimous perspective from all entities was students need to be allowed to have that because of after-school activities, because families wanting to get in contact with them. I do appreciate your pointing out that language. And much of that language we did receive from the Indiana School Board Association, and we mirrored our policy language much like theirs, but wanting to figure out how do we word this in such a way that, yes, they can bring it to school, but no, they may not use it from the opening bell to the closing bell of the day. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of additional context so that you will understand a little bit of the very tedious and expansive amount of time that it has taken to even get to this particular point in drafting a policy that's going to be meaningful and relevant for our schools.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I do have one point of clarification. What page is this on? I think it's on page 3 of 4. It would be the third paragraph where it says students may not use wireless communication devices on school property or at school-sponsored activity to access and or view internet websites that are otherwise blocked to students at school. Is that saying they can't access things after the bell as well if they're on school property?
So
It's a little
that's saying this was an existing part of our policy already, and I believe what it is saying is that when students are on a school-issued device, we have a filter, a content filter, and it prevents them from accessing things that. And so that is also saying it's a student's responsibility to not access things that would be filtered on otherwise, right? To access and or view websites that are otherwise blocked to students at school. So it's kind of in line with a student use. If you're at school and you're using a device, you should not do those things.
So is this combining like all the wireless policies then?
I'm sorry?
This is combining both policies, not just the cell phone usage.
This is updating our current policy so that it is in line with the Senate Enrolled Act 78. So we had this in place. We've had a wireless communication device policy in place for a while. It was updated 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago for a different Senate Enrolled Act that was restricting wireless communication devices during instructional time. And then Senate Enrolled 78 now has extended that from bell to bell versus just classroom time.
Thank you. You're welcome. So as you were reviewing these policies in different schools, do they have like a place to store them? What was the common place that students would store their devices, and how would they get them?
I think it really varies about what resources the schools have chosen. I feel like there are a number of schools or places where it's lockers. There are places where it's backpacks. There are places where they bought storage solutions as well. One of the concerns that we have heard, obviously, is related to expense, but then additionally, administration of like the time it would take from instruction to students come in, they need to put it away, it needs to get locked up. Now the class is ending, students need to unlock, just the time too as well for that.
Thank you.
We deeply appreciate your questions because these are some of the things that we have labored over as well, just in terms of trying to understand what the expectation is, and then how do you administratively put something like this in place for 10,000 children? What does that look like? How do you not take instructional class time away from teachers, and how do you not monopolize principals' time in managing and becoming cell phone police?
Right.
That's what this is ultimately about.
I believe I've got a language suggestion that I think will solve your position.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, I should have apologized in advance for how annoying my questions would be because writing policy is something that I do. So I'm not. I should say that I am not. I have no objections to the substance of this, and I really defer to to your expertise, and I know you've put a lot of work into considering sort of the substance of it. And I'm just sort of, as someone who hasn't done all of that work, I'm just trying to say, if I read this policy, would I understand what it meant? And if I'm later, I think it'd probably be on the administration later to make sure they can enforce it. But for those two reasons, I just think it's important to be clear about it. I think the next thing that I noted, and this is probably just a typo, but in that first paragraph on the first page where instructional time is crossed out in red, I imagine it's intended to read SEA 78 defines school day as the entirety of the time a student is present on school property. And then on page 3, there's a paragraph that starts, students are permitted to use wireless communication devices before and after school. I would just recommend using the consistent language you defined school day above, and so I think you might want to say school day there as well. That's it. That's all I have.
So just to clarify, I would say students are permitted to use wireless communication devices before and after the school day.
If that's what you intend, I think just because that would be more consistent with you've defined school day above, and so I think that will make it a little more clear to the reader.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your questions. Very helpful.
Again, this is a first reading, so we don't have a vote on this one. I'm going to take one last call for comments on this policy. Thank you, Ms. Harmon. Thank you, Tom. No action is required. That will be back for a final vote in June for the second and final reading. All right, then we're moving on to district updates. Tonight's first presentation is an update on MCCSC online programming. Dr. Dowling.
Thank you, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, members of the Board of School Trustees. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an MCCSC online update. Tonight's agenda topics, we'll be talking about the continued importance of offering a locally available online option, talk about our continued partnership with Edmentum, share some feedback from our first year of our online program, and talk about plans for next year. Why offer online school? Well, we have offering online school to meet the needs of those in our community who've asked for an online option. They asked for this for a variety of needs. It is also in recognition that we have 200 students who are accessing online options at other places, and we want to be able to offer a platform where we can welcome back to a local option. I want to do a student highlight here. This is Charlotte Melick. She is formerly homeschooled, but joined MCSC Online this year. She's also a member of our Bloomington South soccer team. She's just an example of many homeschool students who have joined MCSC Online successfully this year. This is a Line Post article for those who'd like to read more. Talking about our partnership with Edmentum, that is our online platform, their Ed Options Academy. We have chosen to continue to partner with them because all the courses are taught by Indiana certified teachers. They offer K through 12 classes. Classes are College Board AP and NCAA approved. There's flexible course enrollment, and it's been a positive experience for us and our students this year. Looking at the Ed Options Academy, it provides explicit instruction, scaffolding, active engaging learning, and teaches towards mastery learning. Talking about some of the Edmentum supports for our online students, there is success coaching available for all our online students. These are weekly check-ins with a success coach. You can talk about your course schedule, the assignments that you're working on, and talk about strategies. There's also live instructional support available from the Edmentum teachers. You can request to meet a teacher for a one-on-one session. These are available whenever the students request them. There's also translation and text-to-speech and other supports available. Talking more about our application of MCC Online, our host school continues to be the Academy. Our Academy staff helps support course registration, answers parent questions, monitors student success. The state, for virtual schools, you are required to do state-mandated testing in person, and we complete that at the Academy or Highland Park for our elementary age students. All our graduates from MCC Online will get an MCCSC diploma, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on a further slide. Talk a little bit more about Edmentum. There's over 300 courses that are offered for our K-12 students, including advanced placement and career and technical CTE courses. The courses have self-paced instruction as well as live instruction. We, of course, provide accommodations for students with IEPs, ILPs, and 504s. Something that's been popular with many of our secondary students is hybrid options. A hybrid option is for students who attend MCC online classes, but then also take in-person classes at our high schools. That's been a popular experience for a lot of our students. They have the options of taking science classes, math classes, art classes, music classes, or taking classes at Hoosier Hills, some of those CTE classes. For our secondary students at the middle school and the middle school and high school level, they also have the opportunity to participate in in-person clubs and sports at one of our secondary schools. And as I mentioned with Charlotte and other MCC Online students, that's been a popular option for our secondary students. Looking at enrollment this year, this is our first year of MCC Online. As of May 8th, we had 76 students enrolled. 9 of those students participated in that hybrid model I talked about. Of those hybrid students, we had several who were participating 50% online, taking online classes, and 50% at Hoosier Hills taking some of those CTE classes. We also had hybrid students at both North, South, and the Academy. We have 19 students enrolled for next year who will be joining us with MCC Online, as well as our returning students. I told you I was going to talk a little bit about our graduates. We have 20 MCC Online graduates this year, pending course completion. 6 of those will be participating in the Academy's graduation ceremonies. 2 of them will be participating in the North ceremony and 1 in South, and we appreciate those opportunities to participate in the ceremonies of schools that they felt a connection to. Looking at some feedback from our families, we of course find feedback incredibly valuable. This online program is a wonderful option for students, providing flexibility and structure within their individual academic interests and needs. Highly recommend continuing the program. More feedback. This is about our counselor, who's the counselor for both the Academy and for MCC Online. Mrs. Hosteller has done an amazing job from the very beginning, helping my students select classes, learn the technology, and answer questions we have had. She's outstanding. Some more feedback. Sorry, I'm going to have to turn for this one. Your students could benefit from a live Zoom call with a presentation on what to expect and how to complete assignments. These resources are nice, but there are a lot of questions that don't get answered just from looking at the documents. We, of course, value all feedback. We're going to use that feedback to help us increase our support for the student orientation. So we're going to provide more support for our students and families during our student orientation and throughout the year by shifting some of our staff. So we really appreciate that valuable feedback so we can make sure we're supporting the students in the ways that they need to be supported. Talking about next steps, our application is open right now for students and families who are interested in joining MCCSC Online. We will connect with those who are submitting their applications. Once we're able to connect with them, we'll connect with them about course selection for the fall. And of course, school begins for all MCCSC students on August 5th. Just sharing some final information about MCC Online. This is our webpage. This is where families can find our application, our contact information. Angie Evans, who's the principal of the Academy, is our principal of MCC Online, and we've included her information there as well. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions about MCC Online.
Have you found that students who enrolled in it graduate early, or are they at the same pace as our regular students?
We have high school students that are at North and South who do graduate early, but we have had students at MCC Online to graduate early as well. So I think it's an opportunity that a lot of students have taken advantage of at a variety of our high schools.
Do you know how many of our online students participate in various extracurriculars at the high schools?
I know we have 9 who are hybrid who take classes, in-person classes. The sports, I don't have a number on that.
I didn't know if they did drama or choir or.
Whatever for our secondary students, whatever they're interested in those in-person experiences, if they're before or after school, they're welcome to participate in that. So we've had both at the middle school and high school level students do that.
One thing that I would add to that, I know that when various families reached out to Dr. Dowling last summer, many of them expressed an interest and an excitement and enthusiasm about the possibility of being able to participate in extracurricular activities. Particularly some of our families whose children were homeschooled, they appreciated the opportunity because the majority of online programs do not afford that type of an experience. And so I don't know that we know the numbers like Dr. Dowling was indicating, but that certainly seemed to be an interest and potentially a reason why they wanted to join our online program.
Yeah, because that's not common even here in Bloomington that you can participate in extracurriculars and go online. Did you say 20 students are going to graduate and
That's
only
correct.
1 participating at South and 2 participating at North?
Yes, and we had some who graduated early who were not be participating in ceremonies, but it was 20 total, and then yes.
I think, did you say 6 were going to be graduating at the academy?
Yeah, I'll go back to that. 20 in total. Some who graduated early, 6 who were participating in the academy ceremony, 2 at North and 1 at South. And again, those were students who had connections to those high schools, and we appreciate their ability to participate in those ceremonies.
I mean, I've heard great things about the online program. Having one of those students that's graduating from South participating, it's been great.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's not my student; it's a friend of a student. But I've heard great things about it, so thanks.
I'm glad to hear that.
We're very eager to continue, since this is our first year doing so. We're going to spend a lot of time over the summer, and I know Dr. Dowling has spent plenty of time with Mrs. Harmon and the principal to make sure that we continue to grow it and make it even stronger going forward. So we're very excited about some enhancements that we might be able to make for next school year.
Thank you, Dr. Dowling.
Thank you.
Next is the quarterly report on designing and building to sustain excellence projects. Dr. Henderson.
Good evening, President Cooperman and Dr. Winston, members of the Board of School Trustees. This evening, I'm providing you with the second in a series of quarterly updates on the status of our designing and building to sustain excellence projects. This evening, I'm happy to report that the BHSN tennis and BHSS soccer projects that I reported on back in February are now at 100% completion. So as a result, tonight I'm only providing an update on the Bloomington High School North Athletics and Parking Project. So as you can see, this first slide here, this first picture here is an architect's rendering of the new entry point that will exist in between the old football 12th Man Club building and the new athletic facilities building that will be housed just to the right of that entryway there. This second shot is an aerial photograph of the new throws area. So you'll see 2 shot put rings and a discus ring, as well as a cage over the discus area there. That's to protect spectators from errantly flying discus during the competitions, along with some bleachers there and a nice little sidewalk that's handicapped accessible for spectators to be able to view participants in our throws competitions. This next photograph is an aerial shot of the new parking area that is being constructed to replace what has been traditionally known as the lower lot at Bloomington High School North, where the new soccer field will actually go, is where the lower lot currently is, a portion of that. So you can see there was actually some of the base coat paving that was done on the west end of that. So towards the bottom of that picture actually is the west end of that parking lot. So about half of the base coat was put down yesterday. They were hopeful to get the second half of the base coat put down today, but the rain delayed that. And so they're still anticipating the base coat all being completed by next week. There'll be a few more parking spots available than what are currently in the lower lot. So we're gaining a few parking spots as well. The next shot shows one side of the new athletic facilities building, which will serve as the girls' track locker room, as well as provide visiting football teams' locker room space, officials' dressing area, restrooms, and concessions will all be contained in this new facility. This next shot is a picture of some of the indoor framing and plumbing that's taking place. This happens to be a shot of the plumbing that's inside one of the large restrooms that will go into that space. If you'd frequented Bloomington High School North in the past, you'll know that these new restrooms will certainly be a welcome upgrade to that facility as well. This shows a shot of one of the parts of the project that we were required to do when we presented this proposal for approval to the city of Bloomington, and that was to replace a 16-inch water main that serves the city of Ellettsville. So that is just a picture of some of our workers in there working on the installation of that 16-inch main water line. And then finally, you can see that the structure of that new main entryway that will house the ticket booths and will welcome guests into the facility or the complex is actually being constructed as well. There's still some concrete work and sidewalk work and things like that that need to be completed, but we are making significant progress there. To date, the project is at about 45% completion. So for members of the community or members of our school corporation that would like to keep track of our designing and building to sustain excellence projects, you can visit mccsc.edu/building. Just a reminder to the board and the community that these projects are bond funded. They are not being paid for out of the education fund, the operations fund, or the referendum fund. These are all bond funded projects. So you can visit this site or scan this QR code to keep track of our current projects, as well as view the completed projects that we have done to benefit students, families, and community. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this evening's most recent update, and I look forward to being back with you in another quarter to update you on further progress.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Are there questions or comments from the board?
No, thanks for your work. It's needed.
Ashley, you moved your microphone. Does that mean you want to comment?
Oh, sorry, I was looking, so I.
Oh, fair enough.
Certainly want to express my gratitude to Mr. Fleener, who's joined us here this evening. Mr. Fleener is in charge of our construction and does a wonderful job of keeping tabs on all of these projects and meeting with contractors on a regular basis for progress updates. And so appreciate his hard work on this as well.
Dr. Henderson took the words right out of my mouth. All of the facility projects and renovations are so masterfully managed and overseen by Sam Fleener, and I certainly owe Sam a debt of gratitude for how hard he works and how hard he pushes our contractors to make sure that they are on time, that they're within budget, and that it fulfills all of our expectations. And so he is holding their feet to the fire day in and day out. And I feel so much better knowing that I don't need to do that. Sam's got it.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Fleener, and thank you, Dr. Henderson. we are going to follow this with the quarterly update on the 2-year strategy to sustaining excellence and financial transparency. Dr. Winston.
Thank you. Good evening, President Cooperman, board trustees, and members of our community. Tonight, Mr. Irwin and I will be providing our 6th quarterly update on our 2-year strategy to achieve balance. That's a mouthful, right? That began in February of 2025, a mere 15 months ago. I am pleased, encouraged, and yet humbled by the progress that our team has made. And I want to emphasize the word team because this has been all hands on deck to get us to this particular point in time. During each update, our CFO provides a transparency report, and I'm going to invite Mr. Irwin to do that now. Following his report, I will share some additional remarks regarding our overall progress to date in achieving annual savings that will allow us to continue focusing on the main thing, student learning. Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Winston. Thank you, board. Well, it's going to start out in a familiar place as far as a slide that you've seen many times, and I think that it's important that we start with this slide because I don't take for granted that everyone's gone and watched the reports in the past. So we started with this to level set to say what were we looking at prior to the implementation of the 2-year strategy, and had the school corporation taken no action, what would that have resulted in? And so again, just that reminder that taking no action was not an option for us, and so with that, we've made significant progress and made many changes as a school corporation that Dr. Winston has detailed and I've detailed in previous reports. But from there, I moved into another familiar looking slide. So if you move to the next slide, I'd like to continue to talk about what's changed since the last time we talked. Things continue to change and update on a regular basis. And some of them are natural in that we get through time, and as time passes, things that were once projections become actuals. And in another sense, things that we had expected to receive finally came in. And so that's something that if you look at bullet point number 2, this was something that I've talked about in the last 2 board meetings, is that we had the arrival of our round 2 IRS solar rebate, which was due to an energy efficiency project that we received. And I had talked a little bit about how we were using those one-time funds to not only benefit our overall fund structure, but allow that to benefit our education fund as we've managed our transfer from the education to operations to temporarily back that off so that the education fund could benefit. But those are necessary transfers that have to be made to support the ongoing expenditures of the school corporations and the operations fund. So again, I've talked expansively about that, but that is a mover in the projections that you will see in our next slide. One of the other things that's changed since February is the wrap up of the legislative session. So the short session was the 2026 session. That is the session where it is not the budget. But again, it leads to things that they either tweak or they add new. A couple of pieces that I thought were incredibly important in this particular round was that they did not artificially set the max levy growth quotient. The max levy growth quotient, or the MLGQ that is on there, that defines, and that is a state formula that tells us how much our operations fund can continue to grow. In the past, they've limited that, or they've set it at 4%. And so in this particular session, they have not limited that, so that will be something that will be beneficial to our operations fund. Also, in terms of taking a loss, I guess if you're going to take a loss, having flexibility, that's something that is at least a silver lining. We talked about that in the last couple of board meetings, in that we have one-time flexibility in how we take the SEA 1 losses as it relates to the supplemental homestead deduction. And so we're able to spread those losses between our debt service fund and our operations fund. Now, after 2026, it all goes to the operations fund. There is no choice. But while we've had that flexibility, we are planning to utilize that flexibility. We've notified the DLGF that we want that flexibility so that we can make sure that we do this in a way that at least is the most beneficial in terms of taking the loss of how it impacts our fund structures. Number 4 continues to stay on there because I think it's a good reminder of some of the things that continue to come after the fact. So we have the legislation, we have the changing demographics of student enrollment that happen periodically through the year, but then sometimes we just get notification that our costs are going up, and it's something that is outside of our control. So I've continued to put that on there as a future cost increase that we know is coming, and that was something that was delivered. We got that email and say, okay, we've got to start planning for this. I've continued to show number 5 on there, again, because it fits in line with number 2. as it relates to how one-time funds are strategically being used to not only help us make structural changes and give us time to make those changes, but to put us in a position of strength. So I've continued to show that on there. Policy Analytics provides us updated reports periodically as it relates to the impacts of SEA 1. I know in previous board meetings, they've come and talked specifically about our school corporation, and I provided regular updates on that as well. But it reflects their March 2026 report as it relates to updated numbers there. And then again, for the purposes of the first slide that you saw was if we did nothing. So it is very static in that view. When you look at how I've continued to show the next projection is that I've flatlined expenses after the current year to not have as many variables in play. And so it is very much still a static view, but it helps us have a very much easier time to be able to compare what has been the change to what we were seeing in the first slide to what it is that we're seeing in the second slide. So with that, moving forward, continue to talk about this slide. I've set it up and I've kept the structure the same, but I know that some of the challenges that this presents is that there is a lot of information on this slide that without the right context can sometimes be misleading or leaves more questions. And I understand that, so I try to do the best to understand the information that you're reading. But overall, the setup is the same of what you saw before. The individual numbers within the bar graphs, those represent the either projected or actual fund balances in that individual fund. For the purposes of the operations fund, it's still reflected in the yellow and the red because that is where the one-time funds are being receipted into. They're into the operations fund. And again, we've talked about why we continue to make that a point of emphasis because we cannot be lured into one-time funds, making us think that we don't need to make changes, but we are using them in the ways that we've said that we will. When you look at the overall structure of that, if you can go back for me, the overall structure of that, it is trending in the way that you want it to see it go. And if I flatlined expenses, you want to see it trending in that upward trajectory. When you look at specifically 2025 to 2026 and you look at the education fund, that's where you're seeing that impact of that one-time dollars coming in and how we're managing that round one solar rebate. That is very much reflected there. And again, that also impacts what you're seeing with the operations fund. The reminder is that the red is embedded into the yellow in the next year. So knowing that that scaffolding of how those dollars are infused is helping us as we progress into the next year and we find efficiencies in that, or we, like I talked about before, the legislature didn't artificially cap the operations fund, so that allows some positivity there as well. First key point that I put on there is this is significant progress. Like Dr. Winston stated, we have come a long way, and we are taking steps in the right direction. But to me, what this graph shows me as I continue to look at it is that we're ready for those next steps as it relates to future reporting and other quarterly updates about putting those escalators of expense in. We all know that expenses and things continue to go up. The cost of things continue to go up. And so we're at that jumping point now as we look at this slide to start to include those things so that we have a little bit more dynamic view when we're looking at where we started and where we are and where we project to be. Bullet point 2, I've touched on a couple of times, but that arrival and strategic use of one-time funds are working as intended. And it is important because I've talked about this a couple of times. We can achieve balance, but if we don't have the appropriate safety nets in place or the cash on hand in any given fund, when something changes for us, like an email comes that says, hey, your costs are going up another %, or something happens legislatively, or something changes with our student enrollment, we need to have the appropriate amount of cash on hand to be able to handle those curveballs and make sure that we're positioned in a place of strength so that it provides certainty for the people that we employ, the kids that we teach, and the community that we serve. So I think it's really important. And that's why that third bullet point is there, is that cash balances are making progress towards the appropriate safety nets, and we'll talk about that more in future meetings. I know that when you look at 25 and 26, that is not the marker of success, right? That is when we're working ourselves out of this hole that we're in financially. But we will continue to expand more on that about what are those appropriate safety nets and how are we continuing to make progress towards those in the future. So with that, we can go to the next slide. I just wanted to touch on these and remind you of what some of those things might be. I've continued to talk about them. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory, right? We experience some of these things in our own personal life, the cost of fuel, the cost of utilities, the cost of the things that we go out and buy. We know that those things continue to go up. We are obviously continuing to try to find as many operational efficiencies as we can to offset the cost of increasing escalators in those places, but we need to continue to plan for them as we already are. So I, again, wanted to make point of we're ready for that next jumping point to start to show those escalators as we talk about how we're making progress towards achieving balance and maintaining balance, because it's not a one and done. It's something that has to be maintained, and I know that Dr. Winston will continue to expand upon that as well. So with that, my last slide is just that reminder. We have that financial dashboard. We have a lot of information up there on our every dollar, every student. A lot of this information is almost exclusively all public information, but you have to go to a lot of different places to find it. We're bringing it into one place, trying to make it easy to access and consume so that people can see the way that we're stewarding community dollars and doing what we can to make a difference for every kid that we serve. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Irwin. At the outset of my tenure as superintendent, this board established these two priorities, one strategic direction: achieving financial balance and sustaining academic excellence. Achieving financial balance means aligning expenditures with sustainable revenue. It means protecting our long-term financial health. It also means positioning this corporation to weather demographic and legislative changes. That's the number one directive that I've been given. The second board priority is sustaining academic excellence, which means protecting classroom instruction, keeping our academic outcomes strong, and continuing to invest in programs and supports that serve our student needs. One of the things that I've said consistently with my executive team is that these two goals and priorities are not mutually exclusive. They work hand in hand. You don't have one without having the other, and I think that's important for this audience to know. For the past several years, there have been a number of headwinds impacting public education in general and our corporation in particular. We are all aware of these current pressures that are highlighted on this slide, from the population decline here in Bloomington, how that has continued to impact our enrollment, certainly exacerbated by COVID, the corresponding decline in revenue, the fact that fewer babies are born here than anywhere else in the state of Indiana, and expenses continue to grow. All of that is pretty significant, and we are working really, really hard to manage those headwinds as strategically and as intentionally and as in a disciplined manner as possible. That's really, really important for us. The most significant pressure that was exacerbated during COVID that I've already referenced has been student enrollment. As you look at this slide, you will notice that the solid blue line that starts on the left at 10,897, which is the highest number of students that we've enrolled in recent years, that comes from the fall of 2019 all the way to the fall of 2025, this past fall, where you see 9,939 students. That's real numbers, real students. If you look at the yellow hashtag line, you will notice numbers starting at 10,047 students going down to 9,658 students. This represents projections from our demographer, Preston Smith. His analysis projected that we would lose approximately 400 students over the next 10 years, and that we were on pace to have that happen. As our enrollment has fluctuated, or as our enrollment fluctuates, we must continue to adjust our staffing levels accordingly in order to remain financially sustainable into the future. If you look at the red hashtag line, if we stay at the current pace, you will see that we will continue to lose approximately 140 students per year. That's going to require additional changes in our staffing model across all employee groups. And so there are a lot of efforts underway to hopefully shift that number. As I talk with and look at the data for other school corporations around the state, they are facing this exact same kind of decline. And quite frankly, it's happening across the country. So there are a number of things that we are continuing to work toward that our buildings are going to be helping us work toward to try to stabilize that enrollment. I want to talk next about our new normal. We've navigated these waters, they've been difficult. Our new normal is important for us to be thinking about and to start talking about. 15 months ago, we began implementing a disciplined 24-month strategy to address a financial reality that could no longer be ignored. Declining student enrollment reduced the amount of state tuition support we receive, and recent property tax reforms further constrained the local revenue available to support school operations across the board. Simply put, our financial obligations were growing faster than our long-term revenue outlook. At that moment, we actually had a choice. We could wait and react later when the situation became more severe, as some school corporations may be doing today, or we could act early. We could act thoughtfully. We could act strategically to protect the long-term stability of this corporation. We chose the latter. During the 2024-2025 school year, on the left-hand side you see here, we began doing our homework and preparing to respond to the realities that were before us. We conducted a number of fiscal analyses. We eliminated vacant positions. We analyzed and reduced overtime spending. We reduced non-essential spending. We assessed our corporation staffing levels across all employee groups. Every single employee group was examined. We prioritized natural attrition. We determined what would be the proper level of staffing across every one of the employee groups within our organization. And as a result of that analysis, we aligned our staffing across every employee group to student enrollment, and we identified potential opportunities through transfers and limited layoffs. From the beginning, our commitment was clear. We would do everything possible to protect students, to preserve classroom instruction, and to minimize the impact on our employees. Throughout this 25-26 school year has been the beginning of what I am calling our new normal. We've continued to target staffing adjustments. We've looked at programs and positions, and we have structured some, we have consolidated others, and we have eliminated some. We are continuing our focus on operational efficiency. We have some that I'll report on this evening, but we have many more operational efficiencies that will be coming back in the near future and talking to you about how we are going to be leaner and meaner and still maintain academic outcomes. As you heard from Mr. Irwin, it is essential, it's non-negotiable that we must build our cash reserves. We have to be operating in Mr. Irwin's words, from a position of strength financially. When those unexpected things come our way, we need to be able to be nimble and to be responsive. And we will be. We are working very diligently towards that. We're going to continue the stabilization of our finances, the monitoring and the management of the legislative impact, the ones we already know about, and the ones that we anticipate will still come forward in the future. In doing all of that, we will continue to preserve educational integrity, and we will maintain academic excellence. While forging this path forward, there were a number of staffing principles and organizational commitments that we adhere to in our efforts to achieve a new normal. On the left, you see the staffing principles. You've heard us speak about them. Dr. Henderson has presented them to you in the past. Those are not just simply words, those are ways of acting and ways of being. That continues to center our work. On the right are the commitments that we are living by. We will always focus on protecting classroom instruction, prioritizing learning outcomes, using attrition before layoffs whenever we possibly can, and communicating clearly and consistently. So achieving our new normal, I think this is an important piece, and this is where I think is some good information for folks to begin to understand, to know, because it's going to be essential as we make our pivot towards focusing on how well we are going to invest and continue to build up and to strengthen learning outcomes for our children and the manner in which we're going to do that. We employed a strategic staffing model that was specifically designed to protect our people, to protect our students, and preserve the classroom experience. Our staffing model followed a sequential order to achieve cost savings that protected our people and classrooms as much as we possibly could. This staffing model, as I've already indicated, prioritized natural attrition as our first step. And you see that at the very top. Number one, voluntary retirements, voluntary resignations. First priority, natural attrition. Secondly, position transfers. We recognize that because of the changing numbers of students in our classrooms and in our schools, some schools might have had positions that they no longer needed. Where we could, we prioritized voluntary transfers, and then when necessary, involuntary transfers. That was our second priority. Third, operational efficiencies. We made sure that we were beginning to identify additional operational efficiencies that would allow us to limit or minimize the number of staff reductions. And fourth, last resort was position reductions, where we needed to make those eliminations. And so I think it's important for you to know that we had very limited position reductions, but that was by design. This staffing model minimized teacher separations. The majority of our position eliminations were achieved through voluntary retirements, as I said, 90.57 retirements and resignations, 70.6 position transfers. We've already saved over $500,000 in operational efficiencies and ultimately resulted in minimal teacher separations across 2 years. One separation across 2 academic school years. We think that that's been very significant and very impactful and very rarely achieved. What that means for us is that the majority of our position eliminations were voluntary or transfers. That's 79%. So 79% of all of our cost savings are coming directly from that category. This slide is really important because what I want to highlight for you here is that every employee category was impacted proportionately in terms of reductions. As you can see on this slide to the left, approximately 15% of our union support staff have been impacted. 85% of them remain. 14% of our non-union support staff were impacted in the second donut. 86% not impacted. 13% of our administrators and salaried exempt staff have been impacted. And approximately 11% of our teacher employee group impacted, least proportionate amount of impact. As you look at this particular slide, you will see a difference of 4% from the high of 15% for union support staff to the lowest for teachers, 11%. I think it's important to note that there was a lot of, this didn't happen by chance, there was a lot of intentionality and a lot of discipline to make sure that every employee group was impacted. No one employee group was going to take the biggest hit. In summary, you can see from this slide here a 4% difference between our most impacted and our least impacted employee groups. The group with the most reductions included the elimination of numerous COVID-era positions, the administrative support staff, non-union, and most of that happened last summer. Tonight, I am proud to report that 15 months into this 24-month strategy, our corporation has already achieved approximately $13.2 million in annual savings and cost reductions while maintaining our focus on the student experience. Nearly 57% of these cost savings are from non-teacher sources. In other words, these savings came from operational efficiencies, support staff, both salaried and hourly, administrators, and central office. To summarize what this means, I want to highlight a few key points. Alignment. We aligned our employee levels with student enrollment and available funding. From the fall of 2024 to today, we have reduced approximately 12% of our employee numbers, approximately 12%. That's pretty significant. Classroom protection. We followed a sequential order in order to achieve cost savings that protect people and protect classrooms. It's not just numbers, these are individuals that are impacted. That's how we applied our strategic staffing model. As I mentioned 2 slides ago, 57% of our annual cost savings came from non-teacher sources. We worked very hard to minimize employee separations. The majority of them, 79%, were voluntary, or they were position transfers. I want to speak just momentarily about position transfers. I do recognize the fact that while we did have a number of voluntary transfers, we also were in the unfortunate position to need to make involuntary transfers as well. And in doing that, we recognized that it's going to be really, really important that we support those teachers. I applaud the teachers who voluntarily requested to transfer, and I equally applaud those teachers who are involuntarily moving to a different position, potentially a different building, a different grade level. That's not an easy task to take on, and it's not something that we necessarily wanted to do. But I think it's important for you to know also that we are going to be very supportive of those individuals who are involuntarily transferring. We want to make sure that they are supported through coaching, that they are supported through professional learning opportunities, and that they have additional time to prepare and to plan for the upcoming school year. So those things are very important to us. The 2 remaining points that I want to just highlight once again is we have worked really diligently in a very disciplined manner to minimize teacher separations. We've had 1 teacher separation in 2 years, and proportionality matters. We've had proportional reductions across all employee groups, and I think that's an important piece as well. Our new normal. Our new normal is how we will continue to provide excellent instruction by focusing on student learning outcomes. We will spend smarter and by placing quality over quantity. What this means for our schools is staffing adjustments will continue to be made. They will be made in alignment with enrollment, with the availability of financial resources, and they will be aligned to the needs of our students. Some roles may shift, they may be consolidated, they may be restructured. Class sizes may adjust modestly. I appreciate the hard work that Dr. Henderson and all of the administrators have engaged in to make sure that we are managing our class sizes responsibly. And core programming. Our instructional core will remain intact. We will continue to make sure that our students have all of the kinds of learning experiences that our community demands and that our students deserve. I do consider this an accomplishment in many ways, and what makes this accomplishment especially significant is how we achieved it. We followed a disciplined and sequential staffing model that prioritized people first. Before considering any reductions, eliminations, we focused on the voluntary retirements, internal position transfers, and operational efficiencies. Position reductions were treated as a last resort, not a first response, and not just a wide swipe. Because of that approach, nearly 80% of our staffing-related savings came through natural attrition and transfers rather than layoffs. More than half of all savings came from non-classroom sources. Classroom instruction remained the priority throughout this process. And perhaps most importantly, as I've said, over the course of this entire 2-year strategy, we've been very, very careful in managing teachers. That outcome did not happen by accident. It happened because this board was willing to make difficult decisions early rather than waiting for a crisis. It happened because our administrative team, our talented administrative team, remained disciplined and aligned around the clarity of our priorities. And it also happened because we remained committed to transparent communication with our staff, with our families, and with our community throughout this process. I also want to acknowledge that while we were able to minimize reductions overall, some non-certified staff members were impacted. Those decisions are never easy because they affect people who have dedicated themselves to serving students and supporting our schools. We approached every decision with great care, with great respect and great consideration for every one of those individuals. While there still is important work ahead, tonight's update demonstrates that disciplined fiscal stewardship and a strong commitment to students are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they do go hand in hand. Our goal has never simply been to reduce costs. Our goal has been to build a financially sustainable future that protects educational opportunities for all of our students, not just for today, but for many years to come. We are committed to maintaining strong fiscal stewardship, characterized by a strong, sustainable financial infrastructure, monthly CFO fiscal updates, our ever-evolving financial dashboard that is quickly becoming a model for other school corporations, if I might add that. And most importantly, continued focus on telling our story in a transparent way and maintaining open communication. As I close, I want to talk a little bit about our new normal. And our new normal is, what does this mean for children? What does it mean for the children who sit before us every day? It means that our instructional core will remain strong, and we are going to make every effort to get it stronger and stronger. Our key academic programs, they're going to remain intact. They're going to be vibrant. We're going to continue to invest in those things that matter to our students. And we will continue to invest in supporting our students. We will make sure that they have the mental health supports, the behavioral supports, the literacy, the numeracy, and access to all of the arts. Those are the things that we will do. And making the decisions that we're making today will allow us to do that. And to do that probably in a stronger manner than we've ever been able to do before. Our guiding light in this work has been protecting the student experience and being thoughtful about our people. This has been a very challenging year for everybody. While I talk a little bit about the kinds of impacts, there's not a single individual within this organization that hasn't been touched by the changes that we've had to make. I know I feel it. I know every member of my executive team feels it. I know their direct reports feel it. I know our teachers feel it. Our administrators feel it. Every day they come into our classrooms, and every day they give the best that they have to give, and we're so appreciative of that. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank our teachers for their flexibility. I want to thank them for their ongoing and continued commitment to delivering excellence to our children each and every day. Particularly those who know that they're navigating or transferring to new roles or to new buildings. That's not easy. I recognize the transfer process is not an easy piece, but we're going to make sure that we deliver on the promise of professional development opportunities and differentiated instructional supports to every teacher and staff to assist them through these unique transitions. Together, we will navigate this moment with integrity, with transparency, and a shared commitment to our students. One team, one goal, one mission. Excellence is still the standard. It is the expectation. I remain supremely confident in our ability to do what Mr. Irwin describes as operate from a financial position of strength. I want to take a final moment just to thank the board for your leadership and partnership. I want to thank our staff for their resilience and their professionalism. And I ultimately want to thank our community for continuing to support the important work of public education in Monroe County. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Winston. Are there comments from the board?
Just thank you all so much for doing a lot of the hard work and the heavy lifting that these kinds of things require. Very difficult conversations have had to be had, decisions made, and I know there are more that will have to be made as well. I don't envy that position, and I just appreciate that you all are doing everything you can to do it with humility, grace, and thoughtfulness.
Yeah, well, I've been given instructions not to repeat anything anyone said on this board, but I echo what you just said, Ashley, and thank you, Dr. Winston, to you and your team for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That concludes our quarterly update.
Thank you, Dr. Winston. Well, now I'm scared to repeat anything. To who did Matt get in trouble?
And you no,
Okay.
she's just watching.
Okay. I'm going to risk it and say that I second Ashley's comments. I know, Dr. Winston, you alluded to what's happening across the state. I think we've all seen the headlines of what's happening in other districts, and I've certainly been at a lot of tables this year where school corporations around the state have been commiserating on the challenges that we're experiencing. And oftentimes there are recommendations, and I realize that we're ahead of a lot of other corporations, and that's thanks to you and your team. It's also thanks to you and your team that the impact has been minimized on our teachers and staff, and I'm very grateful for that. I think we all are. And then I want to reiterate what you said about that's not to say that no teachers and staff in our corporation have been impacted. And as you said, we're all a team, and we're really grateful to those who've been impacted, either because they've been transferred or because they've had to make other kinds of changes. We're really grateful for that as well.
Thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Dr. Winston. Thank you, Dr. Irwin, for your contributions to this presentation as well. Any last comments before we move on to final items? All right. Are there any reports or comments from the board? All right, hearing none. Dr. Winston, do you have any additional information to share with us tonight?
Just a couple, yes. Our annual senior send-off. That took place on May 14th. This event allows seniors to visit their former elementary schools where they are celebrated, honored, cheered by students and their former teachers. It's a wonderful celebration. If you haven't had an opportunity to experience it, you've missed out. It's very heartwarming to see the excitement of the seniors as they have an opportunity to be celebrated. So that happened last week. Commencement ceremonies. Next week, we're a week and a half away from commencement. We're excited to celebrate the class of 2026. Bloomington Graduation School commencement will be Thursday, May 28th. The Academy of Science and Entrepreneurship will be on Friday, May 29th. And Bloomington High School North and Bloomington High School South high schools will be held on Saturday, May 30th. We are honored to celebrate and to award approximately 887 students from our high schools with their diploma. MCCSC Online and Adult Education programs. Adult Education had their celebration last week. Congratulations to the class of 2026. And one piece of information that I think is important to note is that the last day of school for the 25-26 school year is the day after tomorrow, Thursday, May 21st. As we close another remarkable school year, I want to take a moment to celebrate the achievements, the growth, and the memories that have defined this year. Boy, have there been a lot of memories. This year has been filled with accomplishments, both inside and outside the classroom. Hopefully you get an opportunity to hear about all of the amazing feats of our students and of our faculty members. Our students have shown dedication, they have shown resilience and creativity in their academic work, while also shining brightly in the visual and performing arts and extracurricular activities, from sports to robotics, from constructing a building for a local business to creating delectable culinary delights, from inspiring performances and creative art exhibits to athletic competitions, clubs, and leadership opportunities. Their talents and commitment have made us all so very proud. None of this would be possible without the incredible support of our entire school community. It truly does take a village. To our teachers and to our staff, thank you. Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you for your unwavering dedication. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for the countless ways that you show up each and every day to inspire and to support our students. To our parents and our families, thank you for your partnership, for the trust that you place in us, and support that you provide throughout the school year. Your involvement strengthens everything that we do. To our community partners and to our supporters, thank you for investing your time, your resources, and your energy into our schools. Your involvement enriches opportunities for our students, and it helps our communities thrive. Strong schools, strong community. And most importantly, to our students, thank you for your enthusiasm, your creativity, your innovation, your hard work, your spirit. You are truly the heart of our schools, and your achievements are worth celebrating. As I reflect on the close of this successful school year, I am filled with gratitude and pride. Thanks to everyone for making this year memorable, meaningful, and successful. We look forward to celebrating all of the excellence that lies ahead, and we want everyone to have a safe and joyful summer vacation. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the board? Agreed, well said. I second the congratulations to graduates and to all our students and teachers who made it through another year successfully. Best of luck, parents, for everything that comes after Thursday. That the next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. We are adjourned.